42. So if you've got chapter 42, or if you've got it open, I'll go ahead and start reading. We're just going to read 1 through 5 right now. As we get to this point, if you had been able to watch the videos, Kathy, I didn't know if you watched on YouTube or Heather has posted it yet or not, because I never pay attention when she posted. I know usually she'll do it on Sunday. Last week the famine in the land had started. Joseph had answered Pharaoh's question about his dream, and it was 7 good years, and then there's going to be 7 bad years of famine. So he had 7 years. Pharaoh put Joseph in charge. Joseph was second in charge. The only one that he wasn't over was Pharaoh, but Pharaoh had nothing to worry about. Same thing that Joseph's been doing since he's been a captive, a slave. And so as we ended in chapter 41, the famine had come. They had enough. I thought it was cool. They had enough. And when they say grain in here, when they say corn in here, this is grain. It's not actual corn, because I read something and I didn't know that. Because when I see corn, I think of corn. They didn't have corn in those days. That was later on. I don't know if it was something explained. I don't remember the whole thing, but I thought that was kind of interesting. This was grain that they used to make bread and everything else with. So I don't know if they really didn't have corn or what we think is corn.
They have wheat.
Yeah. So, but they call it corn in here, and I wasn't thinking, I mean, even though the thing says grain, but just in case y'all didn't.
They have wheat and barley.
Yeah. So, but Egypt had enough to not only supply for them, but as we read, supply for those around them. So we get to chapter 42, and 1 through 5 says this. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another? And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came for the famine was in the land of Canaan. So we see here, and again, I'll go back to the title that's through the rest of this. What was meant for his bad, which is Joseph, turned out to be for their good. And now we're going to start seeing the good that the brothers and his dad are about to receive because of what they did to Joseph by sending him off to be sold into slavery, or selling him into slavery. Was bad, but it turned out, as we see, how God has been orchestrating everything. God was in the details, just like God is in the details of our life. Every single day when things don't look good, God is in those details, and there's bad things happen to us sometimes to get us where God needs us to be. Just like good things happen to us to get us where God needs to be. And a lot of times we don't see it when we're going through the junk that doesn't make us feel good, or doesn't make us look good, or doesn't. Because I'll be honest with you, I can't see how it looked good. Joseph sold into slavery and then sold to Potiphar looked good. And then he was over Potiphar's household and everything was going good. And then all of a sudden, another bad thing befalls him because Potiphar's wife turned her eye upon him and said, he's a little haughty Hebrew. And was advancing on him, and he continued to say no because he was not going to do that, not only to Potiphar, but to the God that he served, more importantly. And so that turned for his bad because it got him thrown in prison. Now, in prison, I don't care what anybody says, prison's not a good time. And even though the warden of the prison, or whoever was the head of the prison, left him in charge of everything, he was still in prison. And now he's where God exactly wants him, as Pharaoh's governor, is second in charge of Egypt, and is making all the decisions for everyone at this time. And it was because God has got him here for this moment, right here. And so we see here that as Jacob is talking to his sons, and he says, why are y'all standing around? Why are y'all not doing anything? There is grain, there is corn in Egypt. And y'all are sitting here, and I guess in my mind, I get this picture that they're doing everything that they can. I'm trying not to be as animated because Heather says she's been watching my videos without my voice, and she says I'm like a preaching ninja up here or something.
You can't talk without your hand.
I can't. But I in the picture in my head is, here are these sons doing everything they can to make things grow during a famine. There's no water, there's no this, there's not, everything that causes things to grow is not there. Now, I'm not the gardener, she's sitting in the back there. But everything that will cause things to grow and to make things grow and is not there. There is a severe famine in the land everywhere. And I've got it wrote down in here, but that's not just in Egypt, it's everywhere. Because they're living in Canaan right now. So they're not in Egypt. So there's a severe land, and Jacob's like, hey, behold, I have heard, verse 2, that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. And I'm sure he's sitting there going, hey, y'all have tried to do everything y'all can to make corn grow. Y'all put dust, y'all put it in this dry, cracked up dirt, and put dust on it and spit on it, and it still ain't growing, because that's the only water you got. It's not growing. And now take it that Jacob is not only worrying about his 11 sons that are home, and the ones who are married and has wives and the kids, but also, if you remember, Jacob has a vast number of people that he is taking care of. From his servants to his slaves to everybody that's in the land, to the animals that are with him, everything that he has gained, he's got to provide for. And I think Wiersbe had something good. He said, why would the sons not want to go to Egypt? Well, one thing was it's in a faraway land. That was a round trip 6 weeks journey to go get that. And it would be very dangerous travel. There was a lot of reasons why not to go. And also it said that they didn't know what kind of hostility they would get as they went in to go purchase corn. And then also, and this is how I was going, they knew that they had sold their brother to people who were going to Egypt that would have probably turned around and sold him to a slave. I think that was in the back of their head. During this whole time, and we will see it next week, they feel guilty for their past crime that they did for what they had done to their brother. I think that's in the back. That is in the back of their head. This is what we've done. Why do we want to go that way? Why don't we just try to make it? But Dad said go, so what do? They go. And it says, and Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. I kind of think they begrudgingly, this is Ryan's opinion, they begrudgingly said, okay, we'll go. We'll go do it. Dad says go, we'll go. And if something happens, we will. And Benjamin is left at home. And the reason why, Joseph and Benjamin were Jacob's beloved, his favorite wife. But that was the one that he fell in love with. Not that he didn't love, what was her name? Leah as much, but Rachel was it. And Joseph was his favorite son. And Benjamin has kind of taken that place because Jacob thinks Joseph did. I think sometimes we forget that as we read the story. It's not that we forget, it's just not prevalent in our minds. And Benjamin has become his favorite. He's like, I'm not going to lose my favorite wife's second favorite son. As weird as that sounds to us, and maybe as mean as that sounds to us, I get where he's going. We all have, I don't care what we say, we all have a daughter or son that we love both of them the same, but there's one that's kind of a little bit favorite. I was my granny's favorite. I mean, plain, yeah, I was. Ain't no disputing that. I got a card that my mama wrote that said I was the favorite. I mean,
Well, you broke 9 of those.
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. But there's always, and it may be certain things that make them the favorite that on the other one, this makes them the favorite. You got what I'm saying? There's always, and I'm not gonna tell you who my favorite is because I know they don't watch this video, but
2 dogs.
it's with the dogs. There's one that's the favorite, and then there's one that thinks it's the favorite. And there's always gonna be that.
Yeah. It's a little easier with us because we have a son and a daughter.
Right,
So we love them both for very different reasons.
right.
So it's equal but different.
Right, and that's what I was trying to say too. Yeah, there's always, and I think also this too, and Wiersbe brought it up, but I had already been thinking as I was reading in Wiersbe. Joseph went out. Joseph was sent out to those 10 brothers to check on them. And Joseph was good about telling what they were doing wrong and how they were acting as they were out in those earlier chapters. He didn't want something to befall Benjamin going off with the 10 brothers. Would the 10 brothers protect him? Because he was the younger one. Would they protect him? Would they watch over him? Would they just let him wander off? Would they? Then again, we only got 2 kids, but I would have never trusted Abby or Alexa to watch Abby because it's just not going to happen. She's the one that Abby would come messing up and she'd go, so what? That's her. Heather's not going to agree with that, but she knows it's true. And it's the same way with all of us. If we didn't always trust one because they weren't responsible enough to do it.
The eldest of 5, I know exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
So he did not want to happen because he didn't think he would survive that. And then again, it just tells us at the end of verse 5 that the famine in the land was everywhere. Everywhere, everybody was going in to get grain. Everybody was going to Egypt because they had heard that there was much grain in Egypt. And I'm going to actually stop right there and we'll knock the rest of the chapter out next week. But as you go in, you'll recognize that I'll leave you with this. Joseph recognizes his brothers, but they don't recognize him. And when we say that, I've got some things that I wrote down why they didn't recognize him, and they didn't even know who he was. But at the same time, they were adult males, married already at the time. Joseph was 17. This is now, I believe, 31 years later.
It's changed my life.
Yeah, usually when you get to adulthood, you look about the same. You don't change much other than your hair turns white. You may lose it, but your features pretty much stay the same. But then there was also some other things that were just a little bit different than why they didn't. And it's funny, if y'all haven't had an opportunity to read it, you can read it one way and think, wow, for Joseph to be so in tune with God, he sure is being harsh to him. I don't think he was being harsh to him. I think he was kind of testing him. I can see both points, but I think he was kind of testing him. I don't think it was a payback to see what they would say. And this is how I want you to read it. He wanted to see what they would say and to see if there was any guilt for what they had done. So you'll see that as you go through chapter 42. And it's just, to me, it's very interesting. But from there, I'm going to pray and we'll head